Okay, let's take a look at the Extrude Nurbs object. The Extrude object extrudes a spline to create an object with depth. The extruded object appears as soon as you drop the spline into the Extrude Nurbs in the Object Manager. So let's take a look at how that might work. I'm going to take a text spline and put something in the scene. Let me change this, something a little thicker. I'm going to come over here and I'm going to grab my Extrude Nurbs. I'm going to take my text and drop it underneath the Extrude Nurbs. So now we have some actual 3D geometry in the scene. Now again, we have a bunch of controls with the text selected as far as spacing, vertical, font, all sorts of different options here. We want to go over to the Extrude Nurbs object and click it. So now we have some different options here. And we can control things like the movement in Z. So that's negative movement in Z. That's positive. This is X, Y, and Z. In some cases, you're going to need to control the movement in X or Y. In this particular case, Z is the only one we need to control the movement in. Your subdivisions. This controls the number of subdivisions along the extruded path. So I come over here, turn on my garage shading lines. We can see that if I up the subdivisions here, we're upping the subdivisions along the extruded Z. Something else that we can do here, if we come over to the caps, we can control things like fillet caps. Let's just take a look at this. So I turn fillet caps on. Let me turn that off and turn it to none. Turn it to cap, fillet, fillet with a cap. Then you can control the radius of the fillet, the number of subdivisions to give this more of a curved surface here on the bevel. You can also do that around the back if you so desire. So you can get some interesting effects. There you go. And we'll talk about this more in a later chapter, but this is very important when you start putting lights and things into your scene, because if you don't have any bevels and things like this, then light will not catch your objects. The specular highlights won't catch your objects. But we'll talk about that in the lighting section further. We can control the fillet type. Got a whole bunch of different options here. You can see the way that the bevel is changing. So you can just play around with these and get some very interesting looks to your text. Now let's get this out of the scene. Drop in a couple objects. And I'm going to drop in a star. I'm going to pull this down. I'm going to grab another Extrude Nurbs. And take these two objects and put it underneath the Extrude Nurbs. Now, you'll see that we have two objects underneath the Extrude Nurbs, but only one of them is being extruded. Now, why is that? Well, you'll notice it's the first one in line here. Order plays a huge part in Cinema 4D. So in order to get the Extrude Nurbs to work on both of these objects, we just need to click a little button over here on the Extrude Nurbs, come down to Object, and click on Hierarchical. Once we click that on, anything that's underneath our Extrude Nurbs will be extruded. And we can use all of the same cap functions and things like that that we used for our text earlier. So that's the Extrude Nurbs. Incredibly powerful and incredibly easy to use. You'll probably find yourself reaching for this tool more than any other thing in your toolkit.